Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. I have admittedly fallen victim to influencer marketing and I've been seeing Ohuhu markers everywhere. I decided to buy a set of my own. So this set is a set of 104 colours and it was about €80. So they're pricey, but I have purchased and used Copic markers in the past and they are a lot more affordable in comparison. So I've had like a real hankering from seeing these everywhere, and just like from playing around with art, I've really wanted to get back into alcohol markers, and I was like, obviously I can't afford 104 Copic markers, so I was like, these are a good alternative, and from what I can tell, they seem to be quite well received. You know, like people seem to like them as like a decent competitor to Copics, so I'm going to give them a go today, and we're going to see how we get on with them. So they came in this little baggy set, and they also came with like a note card explaining them, and also this like protector sheet so you don't bleed through multiple pages. And then they also came with these swatch cards. So these are the cards that have like all the names and numbers listed out, and you can swatch them. And I think this paper is the same paper as this sketchbook. So this is the Ohuhu mixed media sketchbook. This is the name of it here, and it's a big chunky one, and I kind of like the size and shape, and they have tear out pages, so I want to give this one a go as well. See, I wanted paper. I knew well that my Royal Talent sketchbook that I normally use wouldn't handle this kind of material quite well, and that it would probably bleed through quite a bit. And then I have my nice or odd orange sketchbooks that I use, and I prefer them for painting because obviously they handle the paint very nicely. So I was like, I wouldn't mind getting a dedicated sort of sketchbook to noodle around and play with the markers in. So I bought the sketchbook and I've bought the markers. I've swatched them all out, and I'm very eager to get into trying them out and like maybe filling up a sketchbook page or two with them. So I might not chat. Oh, also, sorry, I forgot to say they also give you another one of these with the sketchbook, so that's fun. So yeah, I think I might just get straight into it. It's a nice hardback sketchbook, and it does lay flat from what I can tell. Yeah, it seems to lay pretty flat even in the middle. So I'm not going to start off with the front page here because that's intimidating and scary. So I'm going to just get into with this page here. I might just sketch out a few little doodles. That might be just more of a fun play around doodle time, but I'm going to give it a go. It's probably just going to be time lapsing. Maybe I'll pop in or out or do some voiceover where I have anything relevant to say, but then I'll come back in at the end and give you my thoughts and feelings on the Ohuhu marker set. In comparison to me having used Copic markers approximately 15 years ago. So let's see how the industry has changed. So for the first piece, I decided that I wanted to kind of draw a cat because I was just in the mood for cats, and I thought I would do a fun one that kind of fitted in to the shape of the corner as well. So he's kind of like curled up and the tail was going around, and I just thought cat is a nice easy fill-in shape to go for. I think I definitely got better at colouring in larger spaces as I went because I don't think I was doing it very correctly at the start. I think one big thing when you're colouring with markers is to, well, what I used to do when I was younger, and I didn't do it for this cat, was you do little kind of rows of circles, and then while the row above is still wet, you start on the next one, so they kind of bleed and blend into each other while the paper is still wet with the alcohol. And I think that works quite well to create a sort of a smooth finish. And you can see I didn't do that very well with the cat here, so he has a bit of streakiness to him, but it's also a cat. We'll write it off as fur texture, you know. And then I thought he looked a little bit boring, so I decided to just do a fun little outline in a yellow, the same shade that I did his eyes in. And then I went in with a white gel pen to kind of hopefully make some of his areas pop. And I think I messed up a little bit on doing the white gel pen around the eyes. I don't know, I just think he ended up looking kind of weird, and then I tried doing whiskers and it just got kind of messy looking, but I tried to fix it, but he kind of just looks freaky, and then I went over in more markers and tried to fix it more and more. So I think this one was just a little bit poorly thought out and could have definitely been better executed. But I do love the sparkly magic cat energy that it has. I do think that is pretty cute. And then for the second piece, I decided to sketch a person, because that's why I wanted to do these markers, because I don't know, sometimes I feel like I do a lot better when I paint with landscapes, because landscapes have so many like natural shapes and textures to them, whereas I feel like if I'm doing human characters, I tend to let them get lost in the background a little bit and have your eye not be drawn enough to the actual human character. And so I thought maybe markers would help me get a little bit more control over the colour and to not sort of get lost in the sauce of texture. So I decided to create a little witchy character here that may be like a fun green witch. And I say this at the end, but I'm very proud of the sheer look that I managed to achieve with the tights. What I do like about working with these alcohol markers, when you layer like the lighter colours on top of darker colours, it lifts the darker colour a little bit from the bottom. And I think that actually works really nicely for certain sort of like lightening areas without lightening it to a white with the colourless blender. And I just think, I don't know, I think it turned out looking good. I think it does look like a sheer pair of tights. You can see again, I still kind of messed up a little bit with the like filling in sections of the witch's dress in this piece, but I think that does get kind of hidden when I add in sort of the shadows from the folds, and then I add in some stars on top later on as well. So I think that does give it, I have a little bit of leeway sort of when it comes to not being smooth at colouring. I think I didn't consider the construction of this dress well enough as well. I wanted a like baby doll with like a big floofy collar and big flowy sleeves, but I suppose it kind of does give like wizard vibes, so it probably does match her a little bit. Once I got the main green layers down for the dress, I really thought it was very bland looking, and I knew I wanted to add like some yellow because I wanted the character to have gold jewellery, and I also wanted to add some yellow in to accent the dress. But I knew that although I did say that you can use lighter colours on top, you can only do that to a certain extent and you won't get very sharp, distinct lines. So I did go in with acrylic markers, and I used the Artex markers. There's a creator on YouTube called Static Wool, and I love their videos, and they call it RTX. And I saw a sketchbook recently that had their old branding and it was RTX. So I think they actually are pronounced RTX, but I've been calling them Artex the whole time. So who knows what they're actually called. Nonetheless, I went in with them on top to add the yellow details that you can see on the dress and her bangles and the earrings in yellow as well. And I just think that they add a nice pop, and they're nice kind of like flat bold colours as well. I did do another piece later on that I didn't include in this video that I did by myself in pencils. Well, not in pencils, I used pencils on top of the markers, and I think they worked out really nicely. They were a very nice accent, and I could get a lot more kind of sharper detail with using pencils on top. So I can see myself in the future not just using markers and not just using markers and acrylic. I can see myself using markers, acrylic and pencils. So still mixed media, but all tube based. No, not tube based, pen shape based mixed media. Basically no paint, mixed media. But yeah, I like how she turned out. I think, again, in saying that, I think I would have gotten more definition and detail on her face had I used pencils, but honestly I was too lazy to pull out my pencils, and my acrylic markers were right there, and I'm saying this and my pencils are literally just on a shelf directly in front of my desk where I draw. sometimes I'm lazy in such strange ways. I can't describe it to you. And for my final drawing on this page, I decided to do some strawberries because I feel like when in doubt, strawberry it out. I should definitely have that as my brand slogan. But yeah, I just thought strawberries would be quite fun. I think in hindsight, I went into these without doing any prior sketching and I just did the strawberry shapes. But I definitely should have sketched them out a little bit so I knew where I was going to put the green leaves that are on top of the strawberries, because I tried going in over top and doing what I said earlier about having the colour lift, and they lifted slightly and layered slightly, but they didn't layer fantastically. So I think, especially because it was such a like lemony green, and then it got kind of muddy with the pinky orange as well beneath that, or pinky, yeah, orangey pink, pinky red, peachy shades beneath that. They were almost too complementary of colours in a sense that they got very muddy and brown looking and just kind of bled into these blobby shapes that weren't great. So I did end up going over them. You can see later on in the acrylic pens again, I added some very bright, bold leaves on top. But I do have to say, I think that like yellowy green shade that I used for the base leaves, fantastic colour. God, it's such a yummy colour. I think it's like lemon green or something like that, and it's so juicy and pretty, and it's like a bright warm green. I can see myself using that one a lot, particularly in landscapes. But I think that combined with the really like bright orangey pinks on the strawberries, they're a really nice combination. I don't know, pink and green, I'm just such a sucker for them. But yeah, I just kind of went over. I forgot to say these are the Ohuhu Honolulu B set. So they have a brush tip, and then instead of like, I suppose what might be standard for alcohol markers, they normally have a chisel tip, but these ones actually have a fine tip, because I just found from personal use when I was younger, I very rarely used a chisel tip. And again, I don't like even doing big streaky lines for filling in areas. I prefer to do those little circles. And you can see I did the little circles for filling in the darker background behind the strawberries. And I think I did a much better job of making it smooth, like a smoother kind of colour as well. And another thing was that when I did this lighter pink behind the cat, what's nice is that it didn't really reactivate the markers beneath. So those like goldy yellow stars that I did, they were fully dry, so they didn't reactivate beneath or anything like that at all. So I was quite pleased with how that turned out as well. I think it's fun adding the different shades, and everything sort of feels like it ties together. I suppose the thing that maybe ties together the least is the cat. But I think besides that, everything kind of stands out and stuff. And I really liked doing these bold outlines around everything as well, because I feel like they all kind of became quite distinct from each other. And I just think this is quite a different sketchbook page from what I would normally do. But I really just had such a fun time creating it in the end. That's my first, basically, impression of the Ohuhu markers, and I really like them. I had so much fun with this piece. I've been in a bit of an art slump lately and I just wasn't feeling creating, but I feel like these have really ignited that, and it was so much fun to just sit and draw and to have minimal mess. What I would say is that I did use some of these ArtX, or I think this actually might be pronounced RTX, but I used some of those are the acrylic markers, and I used them for some of these outlines, and then some of just the details on top of the markers for this little witchy girl here. Just because I wanted a layer lighter on top and I knew that markers wouldn't work. What I am kind of proud of is I tried to make her tights look a little bit sheer, so where she has her knee a little bit bent here, I did some blending work. Love the strawberries, obviously those are comfort zone drawing. I like the cat. The cat was the very first one, so I think it's kind of like the less good out of these. But yeah, basically I think I'm going to be doing a lot of sort of like character work and doodly work in this book, and I've really enjoyed using it. Like they go on lovely and smooth. They're so similar to Copics. I definitely would recommend it if you are looking at getting Copics and you want a cheaper option that I think is very comparable. I would consider these now. To be fair, I haven't tried Copics in a good few years, but from what I can recall from 15 years ago, these are very comparable. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I don't really have much to add for the review other than that I really like them. Paper wise, they worked fine on this paper. We do have bleeding. This is a mixed media pad though, and not a particular marker pad, so I'm fine with the bleeding. And we have this sheet. What I'm thinking I might do is that I might do it so that I'll have markers spread here, I'll paint on this one, markers here, so that every second spread will be a marker, and then the page after I can just paint over the bleed through of the markers as well. And you also have this, which kind of minimizes it getting through the following page, so I'm fine with that. I expect bleed through when it comes to alcohol based markers anyways. But yeah, that was this video. I truly hope you loved it, and I will see you in 2 weeks time for my next video. Bye.